In this video, we will talk about the trigonometric identities, and we will see where did these three trigonometric identities come from. And before we can start talking about these identities in particular, we will start with talking a little bit about a right angle triangle. So a right angle triangle is a triangle in which one of the angles is a 90 degrees angle. The longest side in a right angle is always called the hypotenuse, and the other two sides are called the legs. Now, if no angle is being mentioned, then we call the longest side as the hypotenuse and the two other sides as the legs. However, if there is an angle in the triangle, then the side which is in front of the angle is called the opposite, and the side which is next to the angle is called the adjacent. Now note that as the angle changes its position, then the opposite and adjacent will also interchange. So opposite always is the side that is in front of the angle, adjacent is the side that is next to the angle. So once we have named these sides, we can now give them letters. So in this triangle, we can say that side A is the opposite, side B is the adjacent, and side C is the hypotenuse. Now there are three trigonometric ratios that we will be talking about. Before we jump into that, very quickly, another thing that we will talk about is the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So in this triangle, we will define a ratio sine of theta as the ratio between opposite and hypotenuse, or in other words, we are saying sine of theta equals a over c. Cosine of theta is defined as adjacent over hypotenuse, or b over c, and tangent of theta is defined as opposite over adjacent, which is a over b. Now, an interesting thing happens when we divide sine of theta by cosine of theta. So sine of theta was a over c, cosine of theta was b over c, and dividing them ultimately gives us a over b, which is equal to tangent of theta. So a side note, sine of theta divided by cosine of theta equals tangent of theta. Now there are three other trig ratios which are the reciprocals of these ratios. So the reciprocal of sine of theta is called cosecant theta. The reciprocal of cosine of theta is secant of theta, and the reciprocal of tangent of theta is cotangent of theta. So we will be using these three reciprocals as well. So let's go back to the Pythagorean theorem, and let's start with a squared plus b squared equals c squared. To start off, I will divide both sides of this equation by c squared, and that gives me a squared over c squared plus b squared over c squared equals 1. Now a over c was sine of theta, so a squared over c squared would be sine of theta squared. B over c was cosine of theta, so b squared over c squared would be cosine of theta squared. So I have sine theta squared plus cosine theta squared equals 1. Now that's not how we normally write these. We write these as sine square of theta plus cosine square of theta equals 1. So that's the first trig identity that we have. And from this, we will now see how to get the other two trig identities. So I will start with sine square of theta plus cosine of square of theta equals 1. And if I divide each term there by sine square of theta, then I would get 1 plus cotangent squared of theta equals cosecant squared of theta. Remember that sine over cosine theta was tangent of theta. So if I take the reciprocal and it becomes cosine squared theta divided by sine squared theta, that would be cotangent squared of theta. So here's my second trig identity. For the third trig identity, I will start again with sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. And this time I will divide everything by cosine squared of theta. So sine squared theta over cosine squared theta equals tangent squared of theta. Cosine squared theta over cosine squared of theta is equal to 1, and 1 over cosine squared theta is equal to secant squared theta. So there is the third trig identity. So here are the three trig identities that we have just looked at. Where did they come from? At the bottom of them, what we are looking for are the definitions of the trig ratios and the Pythagorean theorem. If you have any questions that you would like us to solve for you, or you would like to see videos on specific topics, please send us an email. We will create that video for you. If you're looking for tutoring, we provide in-person as well as online tutoring. Just write us an email and we will get back in touch with you. If you like this video, kindly hit the like button, share it on your social media, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new video. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.